Some scenes are closed, but legends never truly fade away. In this episode, we look back at the final moment that took the king of rock and roll to his death in a lonely room at Graceland. The Elvis Presley case opens. This is Memento Mori. Won't you spare me over another? Today, we are taking a deep dive into, well, one of the most shocking and really tragic events in modern cultural history. I'm talking about the sudden death of Elvis Aaron Presley, the King, at just 42 years old on August 16, 1977, in his Graceland home. Our mission here is to try and move past, the rumors, the sightings, all of that, and really understand the final struggle that consumed him.
It's so hard to overstate the shockwave that sent around the world. I mean, Elvis wasn't just a singer.
Yeah.
He was the embodiment of rock and roll. And when he died so suddenly, it really felt like the music's golden age just ended in an instant.
And the official cause was what, cardiac arrest?
Cardiac arrest, linked to severe prescription drug dependency. That was the accepted story.
But right from the start, the circumstances were clouded in doubt and that mystery. It all seems to flow from one single decision made just hours after he died.
Exactly. It was the lack of transparency that lit the fuse. By trying to manage the Key-R disaster of a drug dependency, the people around him, well, they accidentally guaranteed decades of questions.
They sealed the autopsy report.
They sealed it, and that vacuum of information, it was just instantly filled with speculation.
So let's pull back a bit and look at the situation leading up to that summer of '77. Because the image of Elvis in the mid-'70s, the hip-shaking icon, it was so completely at odds with the reality of his health.
Oh, completely. His health was deteriorating, and severely.
Yeah.
We're talking about years of intense psychological stress, terrible nutrition, and of course the big one, a massive, chronic drug dependency.
And when you say drug dependency, it's easy to just gloss over that, but we need to get into the specifics.
We do. This wasn't street drugs. We're talking about a staggering reliance on prescribed medications, painkillers, tranquilizers, powerful sleeping pills.
And he was getting them from multiple sources.
That's what's so shocking.
Yeah.
Records show that in the last few years, he was getting prescriptions from as many as 11 different doctors at the same time.
11? That's not treatment, that's just enablement.
It's pure enablement. The goal wasn't to heal him, it was just sedation, temporary relief. And this cocktail approach, it was causing systemic, irreparable damage to his body.
Right. To his liver, his kidneys.
His entire cardiovascular system.
Yeah.
His body was basically poisoning itself, even though every single pill had a doctor's signature on it.
And the physical ailments themselves were just staggering. There was the obvious weight gain, the obesity.
Sure, but tied directly to that was chronic hypertension. So dangerously high blood pressure and even glaucoma.
But the one that seems most critical, especially when you think about his final moments, was his struggle with profound chronic constipation.
Yeah, and that sounds almost trivial, but it wasn't. Medical investigators used the term megacolon.
Megacolon.
His colon was abnormally and massively swollen. It was a direct result of a poor diet and, more importantly, years of opiates and sedatives, which just grind the digestive system to a halt. You can only imagine the constant agonizing pain that caused.
It makes thinking about him on stage even more painful. He's up there in the jumpsuit trying to be the king.
All while his body is just in a state of catastrophic breakdown.
Yeah.
And you could see it.
Yeah.
The performances in those last few months were so erratic. He'd slur his words. He looked disoriented. You could just tell he was battling exhaustion. The public knew something was deeply wrong, even if they didn't know the whole story.
Which brings us to August 16th, 1977, the end of the struggle. And he was actually preparing to go on tour again, right?
Yeah, another leg of his tour was scheduled to start just a few days later. It's incredible.
So what's the timeline of that final day?
Well, he got back to Graceland around 4 a.m. after a late-night dentist visit, played some racquetball. Then he took his usual package of medication prepared by his nurse and went up to his suite.
And he wasn't found until hours later.
Not until around 2 p.m. that afternoon. His girlfriend at the time, Ginger Alden, went to check on him.
And she's the one who found him.
She found him face down, unresponsive, on the carpet in the master bathroom next to his bedroom.
The call goes out, paramedics rush in. It must have been absolute chaos.
Total chaos. They rushed him to Baptist Memorial Hospital, but despite intensive resuscitation efforts, it was too late. He was officially pronounced dead at 3:30 p.m.
And the initial cause they gave the press?
Cardiac arrest associated with cardiac arrhythmia. A dangerous, irregular heartbeat. It was a broad medical finding, something to tell the public.
But it was really just the beginning of the confusion, not the end.
Not even close.
Okay, so this is where our deep dive really gets to the core of the mystery. The autopsy report. A decision is made that creates a half-century of speculation.
The 50-year seal. This is the foundation for everything that follows. Elvis's father, Vernon Presley, demands, really, that the official findings be hidden from the public.
And they were sealed until 2027.
August 16, 2027. The motivation was pretty clear. He wanted to protect his son's legacy from the shame, from the scandal of a drug problem.
But trying to suppress information like that, it almost never works.
It just poured gasoline on the fire. And despite the seal, details started to leak out over the years, especially from the toxicology reports.
Right. And what do they show?
They showed a high, and in some cases, lethal doses of 10 different prescription drugs in his system.
10. So it wasn't just a minor thing.
Not at all. We're talking massive levels of codeine, morphine, diazepam, which is Valium, and even quinidine, a heart medication that can be dangerous on its own in high doses. It was an internal chemical overload.
So even with all that, the final question is still, what was the absolute final trigger in that bathroom?
And that leads to one of the most compelling and honestly undignified medical theories about that exact moment.
The one from the investigators on the scene.
Yes, from Dan Warlick, who was the chief investigator for the Tennessee Chief Medical Examiner's Office. His theory was the Valsalva maneuver.
So wait, the official cause heart failure is sort of right, but the reason for it, the trigger, was related to his chronic constipation.
That is precisely what the physical evidence suggests. Given the severe megacolon issue we talked about, Warlick believed that the extreme physical exertion of straining on the toilet triggered this maneuver.
How does that actually cause a fatal heart attack?
So the Valsalva maneuver, it's essentially when you hold your breath and bear down hard.
Okay, like a weightlifter.
Exactly like a weightlifter. That act instantly spikes the pressure inside your chest, and it compresses the big veins that return blood to your heart.
So it momentarily stops the blood flow?
For a few moments, yes. The blood returning to the heart just plummets.
Yeah.
Then, when the straining suddenly stops, say in a collapse, the pressure releases. All that blood comes rushing back to the heart.
A sudden surge.
A massive surge. And in a heart that was already so damaged, so weakened by years of drug abuse, that sudden shock was enough to trigger a fatal arrhythmia, instantaneous heart failure.
Wow, so it wasn't a classic overdose in a way. It was more like an accident caused by the chronic state of his body.
It frames his death as an accidental result of a catastrophic systemic failure. It's just an incredibly sad, painful end.
The ultimate irony of fame, isn't it? Dying from the combination of this huge public life and a very private, painful physical ailment.
And that exact combination, the celebrity death, the addiction struggles, the secrecy of the autopsy, it's the perfect recipe for a conspiracy theory.
The Elvis lives theory.
Arguably the most famous conspiracy theory of the 20th century.
And that secrecy was really the oxygen for it, wasn't it? The idea that he didn't die at all, he just escaped.
Yes, that he was just exhausted by fame, by dependency. Some theories even claimed he had debts to the mafia. For a lot of people, it was just easier to believe he orchestrated some grand escape than to accept the miserable, undignified truth.
They needed a more heroic ending for their hero.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the believers latched onto a key piece of early evidence, the John Burroughs incident.
Okay, let's unpack that. What was the John Burroughs claim?
The story goes that shortly after his death, a man who looked a lot like Elvis was seen buying a plane ticket out of Memphis.
And the name on the ticket.
The name on the ticket was John Burroughs,
which was his known alias.
It was his go-to alias for years, the name he used to check into hotels, to travel without being mobbed. So the idea that he would use his secret name to flee right after his death, I mean, it was the perfect hook for the whole theory.
That story just caught fire, and it really defined a lot of the 80s and 90s, didn't it? The alleged sightings.
It became a cultural touchstone, a running joke almost, you know, Elvis seen at a Burger King. But for the true believers, it was a comforting alternative to the reality that their hero died alone on a bathroom floor.
So if we strip all of that away, the myth, the conspiracy, what does it all mean for us today?
The accepted understanding is, well, it's a painful tragedy. His death was a physiological accident, a heart failure, but one that was directly caused by his long, desperate struggle with prescription drugs and the ailments they created.
The king's health struggles were the main event. His death was just the final act.
And paradoxically, the narrative of his tragic, preventable death is what cemented his status as this monumental cultural icon. His legacy is undeniable. I mean, Graceland is still the second most visited private home in the U.S.
Only behind the White House.
Only the White House.
And yet we still have this date hanging out there, 2027. So when that full autopsy report is finally unsealed, will it shine a complete final light on everything? Will it confirm the Valsalva theory and every detail of the toxicology reports for good?
Or will the mystery just endure? Will the cultural need for the myth be stronger than any document? That's the real question.
The ultimate question really is, are we as a culture finally willing to let the king rest? Thank you for listening. Until we meet again in the next dark story.